Hi guys, it's Heidi Hope here, and I am recording this video to show you how I create a newborn digital composite. So this image was taken during a live workshop, which you can find on the Heidi Hope Facebook page or on Heidi Hope on the IGTV. You can see the recording of that, or Heidi Hope on YouTube. So in the live workshop, we worked with a product called the Swaddle Pro, which is sort of this under swaddle, and then we layered different colored swaddles on top. This is another item that we worked with, which is called the Newborn Cloud. It's this great fur that you can just kind of mold it to whatever shape you want. And we're just going to take this image and add it into one of my digital backdrops. So this is the digital backdrop that we've chosen to work with, and you can find all my digital backdrops right on HeidiHopeBackdrops.com. If you click on the top left, digital backdrops, you'll see all of my designs. So a lot of them are hand painted or hand mixed media created designs, and then there are some that are actually of florals and different things that I photographed in my studios over the years. So this digital backdrop is called Storybook Forest, and we had this little adorable boy model in for us. So I like to shoot on furs that are where the fur's kind of going in all different directions, because I find it easiest to place them right into a circle. So I'm going to take my move tool from the toolbox in the top left, and I'm just going to drag and drop the image of the baby on top of the image of the digital backdrop. Start like this. This is something I do in almost every single gallery. I always take some bird's eye views on some type of fur and then work them into my digital backdrops. My digital backdrops usually just have a central circular container that we're going to put the baby in, whether it's a basket or a bowl or whatever. I typically sell them with and without white fur inside, so you can choose which one works best for the way that you photographed the baby. When I first started out, I only photographed the baby on white fur, and it's the easiest thing to drop in. But this is still really easy to work into the workflow, and I specifically chose a darker color fur just so you can see how it still fits in pretty well. So I'm going to turn the opacity of this layer in my layers palette down so I can just kind of check the size of the baby to the size of the bowl. Then I'm going to hit Command T, which is the transform tool, and I'm going to bring my baby's size down so that I want the baby as big as possible in the container without touching the edges of the container. So I'm kind of looking at the bottom here, a little space there. We can go a little bit bigger there. That's pretty good. Now I'm going to turn the opacity back up. Of course, I can always play around with the size a little bit more as I go. Now, one thing I noticed when I dropped the baby in is baby in the photograph is lit from the right, and the backdrop is the lighting is coming from the left. And the way that I know that is because I'm looking at the shadows. So there's a shadow here on the right side, meaning the light is coming from the left, and opposite on baby. So one of the telltale signs of a backdrop being digital is the shadows don't match. You want to make sure you get those shadows to match. It's one of the most important things you can do to make it look realistic. So all I'm going to do is go up to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, and flip my baby so that the shadows match. You could also flip the backdrop if you think that looks weird. And then I'm going to create a layer mask on my layer. I'm going to grab a black paintbrush, so change my foreground color to black. I'm going to invert this layer mask, so I'm going to hit Command I to invert the layer mask to be black. Make sure your layer mask is what's selected, so that's what gets inverted. You don't want the baby's coloring to get inverted. And then I'm making my brush a little bigger using the bracket keys. The right bracket makes it bigger, the left bracket makes it smaller. And then using a soft edge brush, you can fix the hardness and softness up here in the menu. You want hardness at 0%. I'm going to start by just at 100% opacity, painting my baby through with the fur all the way around, and then I can go and zoom in and clean up these edges. But first I just do kind of like a rough swipe. There we go. I don't love the angle of the baby the way that we flipped, so I'm going to hit Transform again, Command T, and I'm just gonna, I don't know, tilt him a little. I also want him to be more over this way. Like I want him to be centered. So we're gonna put them there, which means I'm gonna need to bring out some more fur on this side and take away some fur on the other side now that it's overlapping. So here's where I zoom in, and I'm just using Command plus to zoom in. You can see my pastel lines and everything in the background because this was a hand-drawn background. So it has some cool texture to it, which I really like. So now I'm just using a smaller, more precise brush, and I'm gonna bring out the edge of my bowl. If you had now the cloud is like a really soft fur that just looks really good in here. It's pretty easy to work with. I mean, this does not take a lot, does not add a lot of time to the workflow. If you had a really hairy kind of fur, you may want to pull out a few hairs and overlap them with the bowl just to make it look a little more realistic. Another thing that you can do is you can add some shadows in. So I'm going to show you how to do that because shadows really help to make a digital background look more realistic. So go in like that. Okay. All right, so if I wanted to make this look a teeny bit more realistic, I can also add some shadow on the right-hand side of the edge of the bowl here, because if this was actually like down in a bowl, it would have a little shadow from the edge of the bowl, right? So I'm just gonna create a layer over that layer. I'm gonna choose a color from the fur shadow already. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. Using the bracket keys. I'm also going to turn the opacity down to 10%, so you can hit the number 1 to do that, but you can also change it up here in the toolbar. And then I'm going to change the blending mode of layer 2 to multiply. That helps like burn it in basically. And I'm just going to add a little shadow, being careful not to overlap my white edge. So I can just go in here a little bit. You could use the burn tool too, I suppose. And of course, some fur would be up higher than others, so maybe I want to work with the natural shadows and put a little more shadow where there's already some shadow, and then imagine, oh, some of this is probably sticking up a little higher. There we go. Maybe do the same thing here too, just to make it look like it's sitting a little further down in the bowl. There we go. And we can just look at what it looks like. Let's zoom out a little. Looks pretty good. We can check it out without the shadow and with the shadow. See how the shadow just makes it look like it's actually sitting in there? And that's pretty much it. So from here, I would just merge it together. You see that only took a couple minutes. That's why I like working with kind of a messy fur like that, because you just drop it right into the circle and it works. And then I would do any color adjustments or anything else, skin softening and all of that on top of this.